Hello, it's the Anfield Wrap. It's John Gibbons hosting this week. As always, we are in association with The Athletic. If you want to subscribe to The Athletic, you can do so, and you get 50% off for the next 12 months if you go to theathletic.co.uk/The Anfield Wrap. Hello, it's the Anfield Wrap. It's John Gibbons hosting this week in for Neil, who we think's in Korea now. He's doing an Asian tour. We think he's made it to Korea. So hello, Neil, if you listen. Hope you're okay. I am joined this morning by Emma Sanders, by Leanne Prescott, and by Philippa Smallwood to talk about the game that Liverpool played at Anfield at the weekend. It was Liverpool Women against Everton. Unfortunately, they lost 1-0. But I want to start by talking about the sort of occasion, if you like, and the historic moment, if you want to call it that, Philippa, because it's obviously the first time, well, I say obviously people might know, but it's the first time Liverpool Women have played at Anfield, and to have 23,000 people there to watch that is, I mean, it's quite a thing.
It was really special, to be honest. I got a bit emotional before kick-off because I think people who go to watch the women on a regular basis will know that, you know, we're lucky if we get over 1,000 people going. So to see so many people there was really special, and I think it's something that, you know, if we can keep some of those fans going to the games on a regular basis, it's something that the players will really appreciate, and it's something that I think that they deserve. You know, for a couple of seasons now, we've had the Super League, and it's gone back to like a winter league from a summer league, and I think since that's happened, I actually think it's had a bit of an impact on the crowds that we've been getting at the women's game, because I think when you had it over the summer, you know, you had people who were like looking to go and watch some sort of football. Yeah. So you got a few people who I think went watching the women's games because of that. Again, the crowds weren't great, but they were a little bit higher than what they have been over the past couple of seasons. And I think, you know, doing something like this weekend where it's been at Anfield and, you know, you've got families going, you know, they've made a bit of an occasion of it. I just think it really helps. And I hope they do it again this season. I hope that the Man United game's one that they look at and maybe do at Anfield as well. Yeah,
I mean, it's funny, Leanne, isn't it? Because you think, well, Tranmere's not that far, or Widnes isn't that far where they were before. But I think this weekend proves that the closer you put the women's team to its spiritual home, the closer the supporters will feel to that team. And it felt like, you know, we were going to watch Liverpool. You know, I just kept saying all day, I'm going to watch Liverpool on Sunday. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I'm going to watch Liverpool Women, where it does sort of feel more like that when you're going to Tranmere, that you're going to sort of watch another team, whereas on Sunday it felt to me, well, I was just going to Liverpool, you know, the traffic's still rubbish, and you know, and all the things that kind of come with like going to the match.
Yeah, I mean, one of the players said afterwards, we're both Liverpool, why don't we play under the same roof? We've got the same name. And I think that's it. You know, this is a team who are playing in a game that is still evolving. Some people don't want to watch it, and that's fine. Some people do want to watch it. There is a growing crowd that want to watch women's football. I think the last derby was like 1,800 people went, so 23,000 is incredible. There were people who would go because it's Anfield. You know, you don't get a chance to see Anfield every day. Some of these people take your kids to Anfield. It's an occasion. It's an afternoon for them. As you said there, I think it's something that they need to be looking at more often. You know, it's a great occasion, but it shouldn't just be a one-off. It should be something that is happening frequently if they're serious about progressing the game.
Yeah, and I mean, Emma, obviously you write for the BBC, and you'd be aware of not just a big weekend for Liverpool, but also, you know, there was a North London derby that got over 30,000, I believe, there as well, and what new record and what sounded like a belter there as well.
Yeah, it sounded really good. There was a lot of my friends that were there, colleagues as well. It sounded like the atmosphere was amazing. Obviously, it's in Tottenham's new stadium as well, so I think there was a lot of people who, whether you're a women's football fan or a men's football fan, wanted to go to that game to see the new stadium. I think it was a massive weekend though, in terms of like the actual sport and the game and how much it's involved, especially since the summer, obviously off the hype of the World Cup. But yeah, I mean, Liverpool averaged, we had a piece on our website this week about the average attendances last season, and it was 584 was Liverpool's average attendance. It's one of the lowest in the league. So to then get 23,500 at Anfield was absolutely incredible. And I posted a video on Twitter of You'll Never Walk Alone, and I got a bit emotional like yourself, because I thought, wow, like we're singing this for the women coming out at Anfield, and it was truly special, that for me.
Yeah, and it was a good atmosphere as well, Philippa, which I liked, because, you know, there was times where, obviously, it's a younger crowd, so there's times where you could just hear people chatting and stuff like that. And you realise how loud it is, 23,000 people talking. You're like, shut up, everyone. Just because of sort of noise. But people weren't just coming, you know, just say, oh, see what this is about, you know what I mean, or coming just to see Anfield. And, you know, people were there to support the team. And, you know, when Liverpool were pushing for that equaliser during the end, there was a few genuine roars, which, really sort of took me aback, really. And I'm sure the players appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought the cop was going to roll one in.
It did kind of feel like that at the end as well. You know, it was attacking, you know, the cop end in the second half, and just we seemed to build up that momentum towards the end of the game, which seemed to help a little bit. And I don't know. Despite us losing the game, I actually really enjoyed the occasion, and I think you know, that's the one thing I'll take away from that is, you know, it feels like the start of the next phase of, you know, Liverpool women's football team.
Yeah, well, Vicky Jepson said afterwards, didn't she, that it was a day of celebration. She said,
bullish
despite
Vicky Jepson, I would
say. She was on fire.
She was. She came out.
Yeah.
She'd been pumping herself up like a boxer.
Well, I asked her.
Were you first up?
Yeah, so I asked her the first question, and we were talking about this morning. She almost took a step back and addressed like the entire mix zone. It was like her saying, I am so proud of my team. I'm so proud of this day and this club and what we've managed to achieve there. And that was a big statement from Vix.
Yeah, she swore on one of the interviews.
Yeah. Talk sport.
Exactly. I know it was good. I was into that. And then she'd come to me after, and I was like, you can swear as much as you want. We've got Vicky coming up, actually. We're going to throw her in about halfway through, I think. I spoke to Vicky kind of very, very briefly. I think she was all pumped out by the time she got to me. I was sort of at the end. But it was a defeat, Leanne, and it's a defeat that leaves Liverpool in a precarious position. You would say, you know, at the bottom of the league, only one goal so far, and I think it was a sort of performance that I think it was one of the better performances of the season, but at the same time it also summarised sort of where Liverpool have struggled this year, where there was some good play, there was plenty to get you excited and to be optimistic, but it's still a defeat, and it's a defeat that comes from a mistake, and it leaves, again, Liverpool coming out of the game with positives but no points.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing for Liverpool is they couldn't have done any more. That is their best performance of the season. They did everything but score. But as you said there, that kind of typifies their season. Niamh Charles, who I thought was the best player on the pitch, even she, you know, in the final third, she wasn't quite making the right decision. The final ball wasn't there. Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, I thought, you know, there was passages of play that were so good, but then they weren't finished off, and that's just what Liverpool have done this season. They haven't been able to put the ball in the back of the net. I don't think they've even scored from open play.
No,
so
it's one goal, it's a penalty.
When you're watching the game, you think this is a really good Liverpool team. They're so much better than bottom of the league. But you're also thinking you can see why they're bottom of the league, because they can't put the ball where it needs to go. They can't get the chances. I think, you know, for all the positivity, there wasn't actually many saves that had to be made there. Babajide comes on second half, does really well, but again, there's no one in the box to finish those chances. So yeah, you know, Vicky will take a lot of positives from the game, but it's something that they need to address because they are in a precarious position, and I'm not sure how you go from that performance to being better, really.
Yeah, it's a lot of shots from distance, Emma, and I don't know whether that's because it was at Anfield and everyone wants to score from 25 yards, which I don't understand. Or whether it's a kind of a thing where, you know, there's a bit of lack of confidence. Well, how are we going to break this team down? And so it's you know, what is the pass that becomes the pass that gets that creates the clear cut chance. It just looked to me that, you know, it was all good until 25 yards out, and then they weren't quite sure what to do, and then maybe that's why you were seeing a lot of pot shots from distance, which are just tricky to score from. Yeah,
I completely agree with that. I think it was lost ideas, wasn't it? Like you say, lacking end products. And I think I had a look at half time at the stats, and I think they'd only had 3 shots on target, which I was quite surprised at, because I thought, wow, they've had so much of the ball and so many chances, but actually not really any clear-cut chances apart from that one from Kirsty Linnett where it was an unbelievable save. So they were. I thought they were struggling in the final third big time, and like you say, that's typified their season. And you know, I think they need to bring a striker in January desperately.
Yeah, the formation doesn't seem to be working for me, Philippa. In that, I felt a bit sorry for Sweetman-Kirk. I think she's been asked to do hold-up play, which, you know,
it's not her game.
It's not her game at all. So she's getting balls kind of fired into her, and, you know, it's tough. And she was up against the girl George, who was playing centre half, was much bigger than her. She was even bigger with that hair, wasn't she? Do you know what I mean? And so it was, and you just think, but then when she is making good runs, she's not being found. I haven't seen a more frustrated forward at Anfield for a while, really. I felt like, you know, we spent the game kind of trying to sort of make a substitute, and I think if you're going to play 4-2-3-1, you need a striker almost like Natasha Dowie was, who you know, could hold everything up, was, you know, would do sort of, you know, the dirty work for you, you know what I mean, would be able to go one-on-one with the centre halves, but then also always be in the right position in the box. And I felt like for Sweetman Kirk, she was almost kind of, you know, looking, she wanted balls around the back, she wanted, you know, link-up play, and I think, I almost think if you know, if she's, you know, I agree with Emma that they probably do need to buy a striker, but, you know, are you almost looking, maybe we'll kind of, at least in the meantime, get someone else up front with her, or maybe go for a bit more of a 4-3-3 and just kind of, she looked like she wanted people around her, she looked like she wanted kind of, as I say, little through balls or little 1-2s, and she was just on her own a lot, as I say, looking really, really frustrated.
I think where we struggle is who do you put up with her. For me anyway, she is literally our only natural striker, I would say. I mean, I've watched a lot of Sweetman Kirk because she used to play for Everton, and I go to the Everton games as well. And she's a very hard worker. But she almost has to play that role of being the unselfish forward, where she runs herself ragged, but she doesn't really get the rewards from like her hard work. And it was the same when she was at Everton. Everton have improved actually this season, but it's a really difficult one because I can see what Vicky's trying to actually do with the side, and I just don't think that that Sweetman Kirk actually fits the role that we needed to do. And I think it's unfortunate for Courtney because I think she's a decent player.
No, she just looks. It's just not fitting, as you say.
And I think, you know, if you compare it to, I don't know, like the men's side, for instance, everybody seems to fit what we're trying to do. And I just feel like, unfortunately for Courtney at the moment, she just doesn't quite fit what we needed to do.
It's a difficult one as well because I think Liverpool's strengths lie in the wide players. We've got pace, and it's difficult if you move that formation, if you change that formation, then you'll take away the strengths that you've got in the side, which is the width. So I agree. I just don't think Courtney's the striker that fits this team. She's not got the identity that's needed. You need a big forward in there, I think. One who's aerially strong. And like you say, one who's, you know, can hold the ball up. But there was times where balls were being pinged into her and she was looking for that little nod down and there was nobody close enough. But if you take away that width, then you're taking away Liverpool's main strength, in my opinion.
I mean, I thought Niamh Charles was a real positive, Leanne. I just really liked watching her play, the way she sort of glides through midfield, like it's effortless. And I think there's some times where, you know, it looked like a defender might get to her and she just kind of goes past her, really. But again, it's a case with her that she did have a couple of chances though as well. The couple came for her, and it's good movement, and it's getting in, kind of coming in late from midfield, if you like, but then a sort of a scuff shot, really. And I think that's maybe the next thing that she needs to add to her game if she's not just going to be kind of nice on the eye.
I mean, I thought she kind of typified Liverpool's performance. She was by far the best player on the pitch for me. You know, the way, as you said there, the way she glides across the pitch, she's so confident and she's so assured in her own capability. She knows what she can do. There was an opportunity on the box where it comes into her and she could just hit it first time. Even if she skies it, you know, have a shot. But she tries to take it on her left foot and dance around a defender, and she ultimately loses it. And for me, that's what she did all game. There were so many bright sparks, but she didn't quite have the ruthlessness that Liverpool need her to have. I think it's difficult because you've got to remember as well, she's very young. This is a very young team, and you're asking a very young player to kind of step forward and be the main person in this team, which is always going to be difficult. Just then when you were talking about the formation, I'm not sure whether she could be like an inside forward, you know, playing off Courtney Sweetman-Kirk. I think there was one opportunity where Courtney Sweetman-Kirk heads it down and Liverpool do get a run at the Everton defence, and that, even if it was just that one moment, I think put Niamh Charles in that little pocket and she could still do the same. It is just that ruthless edge that she needs. But, you know, I think once she gets that first goal, she's fine. It's just the confidence of put the ball in the back of the net. She deserves massive credit for the way that she played in such a big occasion. She didn't let it get to her at all.
I mean, also, Philippa, I think you've got to give credit to the Everton defenders, and it was funny hearing the Everton manager speaking after the game. I thought he was really impressive, by the way. I didn't know anything about him at all, and the way he spoke, and I was, I sort of enjoyed just sort of hearing him doing his press stuff after the game. But, he was saying how it's one of the poorest they've played from a footballing point of view kind of all season, really, which was interesting. But, in terms of the defending, so many blocks, so many, you don't know where those shots would have gone. So if we might say, the finish has not been good enough or whatever, but, some of those shots, would have been goal bound, would have at least tested the keeper. But, so many kind of last ditch tackles, so many big blocks, and they were determined to keep hold of that clean sheet.
Yeah, like I said, I've been watching Everton for a while now, and I think Gabby George at the back is one of the most talented centre halves in the league. She's still young, but she's got a bit of everything about her. She's really good on the ball. Actually, I don't think you really got to see that yesterday. But no, since Willie Kirk's come in, actually, especially this season, he's had the summer with them as well, because he came in last season. He's really got them well organised. Last season they conceded an awful lot of goals from set plays. Literally every time somebody got a corner, you were dreading, that the opposition were going to score, and he's really sorted that out. And they're a really impressive outfit, actually. They really are punching above the weight at the moment, because they're a really young side as well. But they've got a lot of talent within that squad. We mentioned Chloe Kelly before, who I think they missed yesterday. But there's a lot of players there, I think, within both teams, which I think that if Liverpool can actually keep the youngsters together, it's a bit of a problem within the women's game, actually, that, they're only on short contracts.
Yeah,
so
turnover,
you get a lot of turnover every season of players coming and going, and Liverpool is still suffering, really, from not last summer, but the summer before, when they had a mass exodus of players. And it's really taking some time to get a proper team together. And I think it'd be nice if, like I say, with the younger players, if they can keep them together and maybe just add some real experience to the side, because I think it's something that they're lacking a little bit of at the moment. They've got Melissa Lawley, who came in the summer, who I think is a really good player. But I kind of feel like sometimes she tries to take on a little bit too much herself, and she has a few too many pot shots from 30 yards. Which
is natural when you're struggling, isn't it? The team's struggling, you want to help, you want to sort of do your part. So we want players to kind of, to put something on themselves. But as you say, when they're forcing it, it kind of doesn't really work.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like what's letting us down a little bit at the moment. It's just that decision making, like we were saying before with like Niamh Charles, in a sense. She's really inexperienced. She's only 20 years of age. It's just making that right decision at the right moment, and I think sometimes, especially yesterday, you could see it when they were taking shots from 30 yards, when there was players in better positions. It's something that's hurting them a little bit at the moment. Maybe just overthinking things as well sometimes, and that comes with confidence. If they can just string a couple of decent results together, like I actually thought yesterday, if they could have got a draw out of the game, that would have been a good result for them.
Well, especially a late winner would have done so much for late equaliser would have done so much for the confidence, for the crowd would have exploded, and it would have been like, it almost felt like a win. I mean, I've just called it a late winner, so it's kind of, it would have given that kind of feeling of, well, this is kind of something to start kind of kick the start of the season, if you like.
I mean, there was the chance that actually fell to Niamh Charles quite late on, where she wasn't quite expecting it. And if she could have just got a little bit more on it, that could have been the one. But they've got to, as a side, they've got to look at the positives from yesterday, because I do think that they played well, and try and take that forward into the next home games.
Just sort of a little bit more on Everton, Emma, because we don't like to praise Everton too much, but I think it's worth remembering where they've come from as a club, really, because I think people listening to this who might not know the women's game too well will think, well, Everton, I mean, for everything that they've struggled with in the men's game, they've always been in that top league, haven't they? I think they're the longest serving Premier League side now in the men's game, but that's not been the case for the women's game, has it? In terms of them as a kind of professional outfit, it's actually something quite new.
Yeah, I actually remember interviewing Daniel Turner ahead of the season that Everton got promoted. Was it 4 years ago now? And it was the first WSL Merseyside derby. and that feels like it was yesterday. It's like absolutely flown. So it was quite crazy to see. Like, she picked up over 100 games recently, and Willie Kirk, I think it was December 2018, he came into the club, and his first game was a Merseyside derby, and they were bottom of the table, and he got the win against Liverpool. So what he's managed to do in the space of a year, they've gone from bottom of the table to now 4th in the league, 11 points ahead of Liverpool. But they're playing some really, really nice stuff, and like you said before, they've got some seriously talented players, and Willie Kirk's a great manager. We saw that at Bristol. Obviously he was at United under Casey Stoney as well as an assistant there, and he's got really good ideas. I like him as a tactician. I think he's a good tactician, and he gets the best out of young players. That's where he thrives. So Everton is sort of the perfect club for him, really. There's lots of young English players there as well.
Okay, back on to Liverpool anyway. And Vicky Jepson, I spoke to, as I mentioned before, straight after the game. She was bullish. I caught a minute or two with her. And so, yeah, I'll play that for you now. Vicky, first of all, to start on a positive, to lead the team out today at Anfield, 23,000 people, must have been a really proud moment for you.
No, it was proud, and the girls, I work with the girls every single day, and I see how hard they work for us. So, you know, they deserve that opportunity as professional female players representing our badge, going out and walking out Anfield. It's been a great day, and to see so many people turn up and support them is fantastic. And
there was plenty on the pitch to hopefully encourage many of these people to come back. Not the result that we wanted, but so many good performances, exciting play, and hopefully a lot of these people will think, you know, I've had a taste for this now. I want to see, you know, what this team has got in the future.
Yeah, I think that the big thing is if we would have come here and got battered, fans won't come back. But we came here and we outshone that blue team, and we were definitely the better team on the day. And I think because of the performance and the process, that we will 100% earn the respect from the fans, and they'll come back. But the fans have been incredible today. Even at the end, when we went and clapped them at the Kop end, they were still applauded our players, and for that I'll be forever grateful, because honestly, there's no better family than the LFC family, and you could see that today in the way that they applauded our women's team. So great day to see that, but obviously not a great day to see the Blues run away with 3 points that we give them.
Are you confident there's goals in this squad?
Yeah, there is. We're just a young squad. We've just got to get the first one, I think, and then more will come, hopefully.
And we are back in the studio. Thanks a lot to Vicky for coming out and fronting it after a disappointing result, but as she's saying, plenty to be positive about, hopefully. So I just want to have a chat in the room about sort of where Liverpool go from here. And Leanne, it's tough because the next two games are Arsenal and Man City, who are obviously second and third in the league, traditional powerhouses kind of in the women's league. And so those two games, you know, you sort of take a point now if you could get one from either of those, and then it is West Ham at home, which feels already massive.
Yeah. I think that's what it comes down to. It's looking at the next few games and just wondering what Liverpool need to do, because they have to change their tactics from yesterday's game. They can't play like that against an Arsenal or Man City. They'll get played off the park. And so it's, you know, you mentioned Willie Kirk is a great tactician. This is now about Vicky Jepson's tactics. What can she do to change her game plan for these two games? So often you see managers tailor a plan to just one game, and that's what she needs to do. She needs to take away the big picture of being bottom of the league. She needs to just focus on the first game, which is Arsenal, and go, right, okay, this is a high-flying team. How do we stop them? Because as soon as you stop them, you're in with a chance of getting a point. You can't outplay them. They're too good.
Has she got the players to do, I think, Emma, to sort of change how they play?
It's a difficult one. That I'd probably say no. And I don't think that's a no to every team in the league, but it's definitely a no to Arsenal. I think Arsenal are the best team in the league. And like you say, I just think they're too good. And I don't think she's got the strength in midfield in particular. The players at Arsenal have got in that midfield. Obviously, you've got Jordan Nobbs and even like Danielle van der Donk is just incredible, one of the best players in the league. And I just think they're going to bypass this Liverpool side. I don't see any players in that Liverpool team who you can put one-on-one with one of the Arsenal players and come out on top. That's where I worry. I just think man for man, women for women, Arsenal they're just going to get the better of them.
I mean, it's two games where, I mean, you might just have to write off Philippa in a way. I mean, he sort of never want to do that. We're talking about sort of Liverpool here, but would you be looking at these two games as a case of well look, we need to try and get at least a point from one of them? How can we play? Or would you be looking at a case of well, what can I learn from these games, or what can we build, or what can we work on, which will then kind of put us in good stead for the rest of the season in the more winnable games?
I think first and foremost, they actually play Blackburn away in the cup
game,
on Thursday, and I would use that as more of a confidence builder. I would try and focus on that first, and just try and get a bit of a feel good within the team. And I would say to them, don't worry about the Arsenal or City game just yet. And then with the Arsenal and City game, I think for me, even if they get beat in those games, but they show, I don't know, kind of like a willing to keep the score as low as possible, because I do agree. I think they're far superior to Liverpool at the moment. I think even to get a point out of either of those two games, I think would be asking a lot of this team. And that's no disrespect to our players, please go ahead and surprise me, but I genuinely think that to get anything would be miraculous, really. So I would then look at the West Ham game and say to the players, that's the one. And I'm saying this now to people who maybe went to the game yesterday, or people who watched the game yesterday and think, actually, I'd like to, go and watch the women play. Please go to the West Ham game, because that is really important. Yeah. If we can get 3 points in that game, that could take us on the way to actually securing our place in the league. And I think that has to be our aim this season. I think asking any more than that at the moment of this particular team is a bit too much.
Yeah, and it sort of feels vital that they do stay in the league, Leanne, because we're talking about the post World Cup bounce, and we're talking about getting 23,000 against Everton and more interest in the women's game. That becomes really tricky if they go down, doesn't it? Because there's no Derby anymore, there's no Man United anymore, there's no City, Arsenal, Chelsea. Suddenly you play, you talk about teams like Blackburn in the Cup, you're playing them every week, and it just sort of becomes a tougher sell, doesn't it? It becomes a tougher sell to, the powers that be at Liverpool to say, I'll host these games at Anfield. It becomes a tougher sell for people like us who want to, who want Liverpool fans to go down and support. Oh yeah, but they're playing, it's either, it just becomes harder, doesn't it? For to get kind of more people excited and involved in supporting this side.
Yeah, I think we spoke earlier about trying to get on women's football, get the crowd going, not having 23,000 just being a blip, have it across the park in every game possible. If Liverpool go down, that's just not going to happen. At the moment, it's not happening, in Liverpool they're not doing very well in the league, but they're playing good football. We saw that yesterday. And so I think, from a longevity perspective, we spoke earlier about this team is a project. It's still in a cycle of change. If they go down, then that cycle has to start all over again, whether it be the manager, whether it be the players, whether it be the fans coming and going. There's a cycle there that we're probably at like stage 2 at the moment. We go down in that reset. So I think that's what Liverpool have to be looking at. They have to maintain their league position, their status in the league, not their league position. Definitely don't maintain the league position, please. Just kind of eradicated my own point there.
I know
so I think it's massive. I think, there's a lot of quality in this team. They're young players, but they're fresh, they're raw, and they are capable of doing something. They're an exciting team to watch, and hopefully, with a big result against West Ham, suddenly there's, a feel-good factor in camp, more people go and watch, the average attendance will go up, that type of thing, and there's something to feed off. I think it's massive, yeah.
Also in terms of, keeping and attracting talents as well, Emma, and I think there's a lot of good players that this City has produced, and there's not many of them who are playing for Liverpool, and that sort of bothers me. Like, I get angry about once a week that the Man United captain is a Scouser and was at Liverpool and was somehow allowed to leave, and I don't know what happened and blah blah blah. And but the point is, the Man United captain is a Scouser who used to play for us a couple of years ago, and then also you look at other players, and there's world class players, but they're at Barcelona or they're at Leanne, and you know what I mean. And you think, well, if they're from Liverpool, and you can't have all of them. I mean, we'd like all of them, but the next one should be at Liverpool, and so it might be too late, to attract sort of a Nikita Paris or back or whatever. But the next Nikita Paris should be playing for Liverpool, and that is much easier if you're a WSL1 club.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And Niamh Charles is a perfect example. I don't think she would stay around if they dropped down to the Championship. She's too good to be playing Championship football, and she's a homegrown talent. She's a Scouser. She's a local girl. You want those players to stay, and like you say, you want to attract those big names. And for me, I think women's football at the moment, in terms of widening the game, it is about the personalities, and it is about those big players. You only really have that in WSL, and that's no disrespect to players who play in the Championship. There's some fantastic players there, but the wider audience don't really know much about them. People come to watch people like Viviana Miedema at Arsenal. They come to watch Jordan Nobbs. They come to watch these big players. And that's what they used to do at Liverpool. They used to do that with, like, you know, Toni Duggan when she was at Everton, and they come to watch these players. And that, I think, is one of Liverpool's problems as well. That apart from the lack of experience and internationals, it's the lack of big names as well. And like you say, local big names as well. Yeah,
and you know, so much of the England team, Philippa, used to be playing for Liverpool. In that, Farrah Williams used to be on our midfield and things like that, and those sorts of draws. And it's fair enough saying you want to go for the younger team, and they've gone down the road of having sort of a younger squad, but there's problems to sort of come with that as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I really do think that 2 summers ago when we had the mass exodus. There was an awful lot of international players who played for Liverpool at that stage. Yeah. We had Casey Stoney at the time, who's the United manager now, and when she went there, it seemed to take a lot of our players at the same time. And that's purely down to Manchester United, for me, showing more ambition at that point, because they were in the Championship. Yeah. And players were willing to say, right, we'll take the hit for a season, because we know that next season the likelihood is that we're going to be in WSL. It's really disappointing for me, really, to see how we've kind of allowed quite a few teams to leapfrog our position. We were top 4, top 5 side only 2 seasons ago, and now we've basically allowed all these sides, even Tottenham, who've come up this season. They're all doing a lot better than what Liverpool are. They seem to have, I don't know whether or not they're just further ahead in there, like we were saying before about like the cycle and everything that Liverpool are in at the moment, whether or not we're a step or two behind these sides. But we need investment badly from the club. But I think in order to persuade the club to invest, we need people to be turning up and to be coming through the game gates and to be showing that we actually care about the side. There's a nucleus of Liverpool fans who go to every game. They go to the away games, and they're a real credit to the women's side. But we need more of them. We need people to be turning up at West Ham, and we need them to be getting behind the side, because I think it will get a little bit more out of the players as well, which will only help us stay in the league.
Yeah, Peter Moore was at the game, Leanne. I spoke to him briefly afterwards, and he was genuinely gutted about the result. You know what I mean? He seems, from a personal level, to be sort of really invested in the women's team at the moment, which is really good. But he almost needs to win that fight within the club, almost, doesn't he? And needs, there's other people, Philippa there's talking about investment. It's not his money at the end of the day. No. Do you know what I mean? And so he might be sort of CEO, but he needs to persuade other people, I would assume, that this women's team are worth backing, they're worth sort of fighting for. And that's another thing where I'm sure he's desperate for them to stay up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Vicky who said he was in the dressing room afterwards with the players. So he is heavily invested in this team. He wants them to succeed. He was there. He was passionate about the game. And I think that can only help. The thing about women's football is we're talking about the WSL here, and a lot of people don't have a knowledge of WSL, let alone any other league. Yeah. So it's such a niche that if Liverpool go down, as we've said, their knowledge decreases further. So you think it's bad now, it would be non-existent almost. So I think, from his perspective, from the cycle, from the longevity of the club and what Vicky is trying to do with this young team, they have to stay up to get the motor going, basically. It's a long-term project. I think if Liverpool stay up this season, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. There's still so much work to do, but that comes with time. I think at the moment it's one step at a time, and the first step has to be maintain your status in the top division. Then go and say, look, let's get more attendance. Let's go to Anfield more often. Let's go to Goodison in the away game. Let's do these things. Let's get more people invested in this squad. Get the feel-good factor, get these players thinking, God, we've got a massive crowd behind us now. There is a desire for us to be playing. We're playing in Liverpool colours. This is a city who loves their football, and they're behind us. Get that and then move on from there. Don't try and do it all at once.
Yeah.
And I think as well, Emma, hopefully, so the weekend Sundays proved that, you know, Liverpool might not have won, but I think we've all agreed that it was the best performance of the season. And so, well, the crowds brought that off someone. So it'd be really great to see another game this season at Anfield, both from a point of view of, well, we've seen what it gets on the team, from a point of view of getting more people down there. But also, you know, if we're talking about retaining players and we're talking about keeping players, then, you know, it is a good thing if you could say, and you get to do, you know, you come to Liverpool, play at Anfield, play in front of the Cop, it's rammed, and they go mad, and, you know, the result might not have been great against Everton, but then we beat Man United at 3-0, and it was great. I'm looking ahead now, and so, you know, and so it's, you know, it can be something, you know, when we're talking about attracting talent and having the best sort of, you know, Liverpoolian talent, forget about the rest of the world for now, you know, I mean, that'd be great, but, you know, if you're trying to sell the club to an 18-year-old Scouse girl who's grown up, who loves Liverpool, you know, saying, and we play 2 or 3 times, you know, at Anfield every season, you know what I mean, that's a real sell. Yeah,
it's a dream come true, and I do massively agree with that. However, I think there needs to be, and Willie Kirk actually said this yesterday, I think there needs to be a balance between one-off games and playing it regularly. I think when I spoke to Vicky in August and she said, we are talking to the club, there will be a game at Anfield, but we're picking the right occasion and the right game. And I completely agree with that, because if you play there 10 times a season, it kind of wears off, you know, the occasion, the excitement, the fun around it, the one-off aspect of it wears off. So it has to be those big games, and they got it spot on this weekend. FA Women's Weekend, international break for the men's, Merseyside derby. It was just the perfect timing. And I agree, I'd like to see it for the United game in February. I think that's another good opportunity. But yeah, I think it needs to be around the right game. But like you say, and Vicky said, when I spoke to her this week, she said Anfield's one of the best stadiums in the world. And it is. And if you're saying to a player, come to our club, you can play at Anfield against Man United, you'd bite your arm off, wouldn't you?
Okay, we're going to finish up now. I was going to ask you all if you thought Liverpool would stay up, but I'm not going to put you out. So I'm just going to ask you all for one thing that you think that would help in terms of Liverpool. So one thing you change, so it might be a formation change, or play to use more, or just to kind of, you know, bring in a new player or what. So we'll start with Philippa. What's the one thing that you would like to see Liverpool do if they're going to stay up?
I think I would like to see Niamh Charles and Babajide. Probably said a name. Yeah. I'd like to see them start more games. I know Niamh tends to be a starter at the moment, but the 2 young raw talents, and I think I would.
Would you try and push them up further?
I think I would just try and start them more so they can try and get a bit more of the rhythm to the game, and, you know, build the confidence just by playing games. I think. You know, if you keep playing a player and then taking them out again, it can kind of knock the confidence a little bit. And I think the 2 stars for me of this side, and I think if people can get to know them as individuals, like the personalities as well as the talent, then, you know, I think there could be something that we can highlight as a real selling point of this side. And I think that's what I would do.
Yeah, on sort of Babajide in the star quality, I noticed there was a young lad who asked for the boots after the game, and she sorted that, I think, hasn't she? So she was only on the pitch a few minutes and already kind of inspiring young people, which is great. Leanne?
I would play Babajide more. I think it was her first touch. She takes it past 2 Everton defenders and she just leaves them on the floor, cuts it inside, and it's one of Liverpool's best chances of the whole game, and she does it instantly. I get the argument that maybe she doesn't have the defensive work of Sweetman Kirk, but we're talking about a team who hasn't scored from open play. First and foremost, you've got to put the ball in the back of the net. Worry about the defensive work afterwards. There's 10 other players on that pitch. Well, 9. But like her job first and foremost is goals. Play her, get a bit of pace going, get her interchanging with Niamh Charles, get some excitement, even just to like bump up the crowd. She's exciting to watch. Yeah. Sweetman Kirk does a job for this Liverpool team, but it's a job that isn't as exciting to watch. She does the dirty work. Get Babajide on, get a bit more impetus into the attack and see what happens.
It's that unpredictability as well, because I noticed Willie Kirk mentioned after the game as well that she terrifies him basically, and you think, well, if you've got that, I think always with the manager, if you're not sure what to do what the opposition want you to do least. And I think if the opposition manager's coming out and going, well, you know, she terrifies me, to be honest with you, then why only give her 20 minutes?
No, she's, like you say, she's got that unpredictability, and she's very raw, so it's just pace. It's all about pace. She does lack that end product at the moment, but she's still young. That's going to come, and she's creating chances. But I mean, for me, it's pretty simple. Just buy a striker, buy a goal scorer.
What's the forgive my ignorance? What's the score with sort of transfers and stuff like that? Is there a
January,
window?
yeah.
So there is a January window.
It's quite similar with men's now.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it? So,
it's kind of aligned.
So it's a January window.
Yeah. So obviously in the before that, that's where you need maybe to tweak the formation.
creativity.
Yeah, you might need to move Neve in the middle, get her playing off Courtney. I'd like to see Kirsty Linnet play a lot more as well. She played really well on Sunday. But yeah, it's a simple one for me. Just buy a striker, show ambition.
I think
I
I was actually looking at the fixtures, and I think there's only the West Ham game where I would say that's the one that we need to win before the January window.
Yeah.
So I think, it's I keep banging on about the West Ham game. That's the only one that I see where I go, we should be getting points out of that game. We need to get points out of that game.
That's the thing, though. We've all just said Babajide mainly, but I wouldn't play her in the next 2 games. So the thing you want to change, the thing you want to see, doesn't suit what Liverpool have to do in the next 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
So it just comes down to play the team in front of you, play to stop them, play to stop Man City, play to stop Arsenal. You probably won't be successful, but if you try and play their game, they will play you off the park.
Yeah,
I actually disagree with Rin starting. I actually think she's better as a sub player. I think she's that impact sub who comes on and just runs and runs and runs at the defenders for 20 minutes when they're tired, when they might lose concentration towards the end of the game, losing a little bit of focus, and she just burns them for pace. But I do think because she lacks that defensive sort of intelligence over the course of 90 minutes, I think she can get caught out. So I personally prefer her as an impact sub. But there we go.
There we go. We'll leave it there. We're all talking about investment, be that in January or generally. We'd love to see more investments in this team. We'd love to see more people down there supporting them, so do keep it out. If you can get to that West Ham game, as Philippa says, it's a huge one, and has been proved, the more people are there watching this team, the better they seem to play. So, but in the meantime, thanks a lot for everyone for joining me in the studio, to Lizzie Doyle for producing. That's been the Anfield Wrap.